So I will now give a short live demo into the water risk filter risk assessment results, and will highlight three unique features that exist only in the water risk filter for more in-depth water risk assessments, such as I've mentioned, water risk assessments using high resolution region and country level data sets. We do go deeper also with assessing operational water risks. And finally, it is also possible to do more forward-looking scenario water risk assessments. So on that, as you can see here, I'll just move this here. Okay, great. As you can see on the website, I will go first to the portfolio manager. As you've understood from the presentation from Maria, by now I'm sure you've understood we have a joint portfolio manager where users can upload data for assessing both biodiversity risk filter in the biodiversity in the biodiversity risk filter and water in the water risk filter. And so in my portfolio manager here, I will take the example of assessing water risks for company A, which I've created. And I will do this by, instead of clicking on Analyze Biodiversity, I will click on Analyze Water. And here we go. As you can see, very similar to the biodiversity risk filter, you can visualize on a map how the different sites in this company A are distributed across the world and face different physical, regulatory, and reputational water risks, which you can select also via this drop-down menu. So for example, here in physical water risks, we could select water scarcity as an example. Now, obviously, similar to the biodiversity risk filter, you can assess in the water risk filter water risk using global data sets. But the water risk filter also does contain some higher resolution data sets for some specific regions and country in the world. And so you can see here in this drop down option. And just to give you an example, I will try here to select a region. And as you'll notice, in this case, this pop-up window will appear actually because you can only assess water risk using high resolution region or country level data sets when all sites in the selected company are located in one of the specific regions or countries for which the water risk filter does have high resolution data available. And so the reason for this actually is because you should not be comparing risk scores derived from different uh, global versus country data sets, as most times indicators are not fully comparable. And so there is a total actually in the water risk filter of two regional level data sets for Greater Mekong and Europe, and a total of seven country level data sets for Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Great Britain, Hungary, South Africa, and Spain. And so I will illustrate this by giving you an example, going back to my portfolio manager. I will, in this case, take another company called Company Europe, which I've created and which only has sites located inside Europe. And so I will click here again on Analyze Water. And now you can see all the sites that are actually located across Europe. And this time I will click on the drop-down menu. Instead of looking at the global data set, I will select region. And as you can see, you'll be able now to do an analysis focused on for all these sites in Europe using the water risk filter high resolution data set for Europe. And you could look into more detail at exactly which the different underlying data sets for Europe in this case. So for example, looking at soil moisture, or for example, looking at water deficit, etc. So it's really allowing for a finer scale analysis using best available, in this case, regional level data sets. Now, obviously, similar to the water risk filter, the biodiversity risk filter, similar to the biodiversity risk filter, the water risk filter also contains the tab details in order to allow you to do a water risk assessment for all your sites, in this case for the company Europe. And you will recognize actually two very similar graphics as in the biodiversity risk filter. So on the left-hand side, this graphic shows up to 10 major river basins or countries. You can select countries instead, with the highest number of sites and associated basin risk scores. And as Maria explained previously, this sort of information from this graphic can help you identify better where you may want to focus your water stewardship activities in which country or basin, for example. On the right-hand side, this graphic for the selected company, in this case, Company Europe, shows the distribution of the number of sites at different basin risk score levels across physical, but also regulatory in this case, and reputational risks. And so, unlike the biodiversity risk filter, the water risk filter does also go deeper into assessing operational water risk. As you can notice here, there are no results actually in these two lower bottom graphics on operational water risk because I have not entered yet any operational data for sites for the specific company. And so now I will actually show you quickly how you can upload operational data. And to do that, I will go back to the portfolio manager. And actually in the portfolio manager, there are many ways, let's say, or options available in order to do so. So first in the companies and groups tab, you can see, so for my company Europe, for example, as you've understood, you have a total of 20 sites that have been uploaded. And out of these 20 sites, actually 0 sites have operational data uploaded. So if I click here, a pop-up window will appear. And basically this lists all the sites for which there is missing operational information. And if you want to, let's say, add information for this first site called Site Slovakia, you can click on Assess Water. And here you will be taken to fill in a questionnaire that you can directly fill in online and for the information for that specific site that you want to assess for operational water risks. And you can choose between a rapid version questionnaire, which only contains 10 short questions, or a detailed version operational questionnaire, which contains up to 20 mandatory questions. Now, while the short version questionnaire obviously is very practical, it does provide you an operational risk score very quickly. We do encourage obviously completing in the longer term the full version questionnaire, which does provide at the end higher quality results outputs and therefore can help better inform the what kind of responses the company and strategy should be put in place in order to also address operational risks. In any case, in both the rapid and detailed questionnaire, as you can see, all questions have a drop-down response option, making it very easy to select between 5 different options. And there's different questions to be able to cover physical risks, regulatory, and reputational water risks. Now, obviously, you can upload and you can fill in a questionnaire at a site level directly online. That said, you can also do a bulk upload of operational information for multiple sites in one go. And to do so, I will just show you quickly how to do so in the Portfolio Manager. Going back to that company Europe, again, clicking here, showing where there's basically no data uploaded yet. Instead of selecting a specific site listed here that has no operational data, I will instead click on Assess your sites offline. And here, basically, you will be able to download an Excel that you'll be able to populate offline, save it, and then upload it back into the system in one go, and it will populate operational data for all sites that you've completed in the Excel. Due to time constraints, I'm not going to show this live, but I just wanted to make you aware that basically there is an option to do quick bulk uploads of operational data. And actually, I'll just show you a quick other trick here is that instead you could go to the Sites tab here, and similarly, you could click on Water Operational Assessment. And here, similar, you can download an Excel, do a bulk upload. And in this case, it would be for all sites across all companies that you have. In addition, you could instead also identify a specific site of interest, and here click on Assess Water, and this would allow you to get to the operational questionnaire online and fill it all online. So now to illustrate how actually I'd like to show you how the results look like when a company did actually enter operational data. I will now go back to companies and groups and I will select this time company A, which you can see has 96 sites uploaded, of which 21 do have operational data already uploaded. So now I'll click to Analyze Water and I will go into the Details tab. And here you will see it's taking a bit of time, but now you can see there's 2 additional graphics that are uploaded. And at the bottom here, so for example, you have on the right-hand side, there's a graphic showing for this selected company A, the distribution of the 21 sites with different operational risk scores across physical, regulatory, and reputational risks. And on the left-hand side, there's a graphic, which is kind of similar to the one you've seen in the bidar service filter, but in this case, it's looking at basin risk versus operational risks. And here you can see all the sites plotted in order to understand which sites may have high basin operational risk or only high basin and low operational and vice versa. And there's a drop down option here so that you can actually also even compare and go into some detail. For example, you could compare scarcity basin risk versus scarcity operational risks and etc. So really you can play around and go much deeper to understand basin versus operational risks. And again, this is, a step deeper into understanding your comprehensive water risks by also looking at not just only basin, but also the operational aspects. Now, obviously, similar to the Biodiversity Risk Filter, you can download all basin and operational risk scores for all sites in an Excel by clicking on the Export to Excel button that's on the top. Again, due to time constraints, I'm not going to walk you through it, but you've seen the one from Maria of the Biodiversity Risk Filter, and the water risk filter is very much structured in a similar fashion. And so this obviously allows you to take the analysis offline to go a lot more deeper if you're interested, to also do further analysis offline and combine it with other information. But last and not least, the last feature, which I think is very exciting that we do have in the water risk filter, which is unique to the water risk filter, is that we do allow also to assess future water risks using scenarios. And this can be done by clicking here on the scenarios tab. And so here you can visualize on a map all the sites, in this case of my example, company A, and you can examine different water risk types in this drop-down menu here on the left. And you can select, for example, here I will look at water scarcity, or you could look at flooding. And you can see how this selected water risk, in this case flooding, may evolve by 2030 or 2050, for example, and under three different scenario pathways. There is an optimistic scenario, a current trend scenario, and a pessimistic scenario. And each scenario are based on a combination of the most relevant climate scenarios based on IPCC representative concentration pathways, RCP, and socioeconomic scenarios developed by the IASA Research Institute. I'm not going to go into details on exactly the underlying data because this would be very overwhelming and too much information, but I want to just flag to you that if you're interested to understand more what data sets and how these water research scenarios have been developed, please go into the Explore Data and Methods section where you can, have all the information available, and we're very transparent about where the data comes from and how the scenarios were built. So yeah, obviously, and similar to obviously you can visualize all this on a map, but you can download all the risk scores for every single sites under different scenarios using the export to Excel, which therefore allows you to do further analysis offline and combine this information within broader scenario analysis work. So really, thanks to this unique feature in the water risk filter, which we launched back in 2021, companies and investors can better understand how their water risk will evolve in the face of climate change, and therefore take this into account to inform their business strategies and investment decisions, as recommended by the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure, as well as in TNFD, Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosure, which will be looking also into scenarios. And so this is kind of the end of my quick demo. Just really wanted to flag some key unique features that are only in the water risk filter for deeper water risk assessments. I did want to flag very briefly that whilst currently I'm only showing results at a company level, you are able to also see results at a site level for water risks. So if you go into the portfolio manager and go into sites, you can also select a particular site of interest and go and analyze their water risks. And here you can have information which is summarized in the details tab, but you can also get um, information about every single basin risk score for every single indicator for that site, as well as information for every single operational risk indicator, and finally also for the understanding of scenarios, and how water risk will evolve for that one site. Now that said, I would like to remind you that these tools, both the water risk filter and the biodiversity risk filter, are really designed as portfolio level screening tools and therefore not focused on individual site level assessments. So I do encourage you also to really do use the tool and its strengths, which is more about screening and prioritization uh, using portfolio level assessments.